afternoon, honorable members. There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. You may be seated. Order, honorable members. In accordance with Council Rule 2471, there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice. And before we proceed with the questions, let me take this opportunity to welcome the Deputy Minister. Is it Public Enterprises? So it was just swapped to say it will be the Deputy Minister of Small Business Development and the Minister of Public Enterprise. So it was just swapped. We also want to welcome the Minister of Small Business Development. She has been here before. It's not the first time that she's here with us. So welcome, Deputy Minister. It's your first time, my former colleague. You are more than welcome here. Before we continue, I also want to apologize for the Minister of Finance. He informed us that, unfortunately, the President has requested him to be at the Africa Investment Conference, or is it a conference or a forum? So, before we continue, let me make the following remarks. The time for reply by the Minister or the Deputy Minister is 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The time for asking supplementary questions is 2 minutes. The time for reply of a supplementary question is 4 minutes. The supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. With that said and done, we will now call on the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises to reply to the questions. You can reply from where you are seated, or you can go to the podium if you so prefer. The first question, okay, are you going there? We'll allow you. The first question is the question of the Honorable Ms. Modise, question number 237.
Thank you.
Over to you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. Let me deal with the obvious question first. The Minister of Public Enterprises is out of the country at present. I had to be settled then with the task of responding to the questions to the department. And the response is as follows.
You may continue, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The response to the first question from Honorable Modise is that the department, as part of its monitoring work, meets monthly with Transnet as part of monitoring of their performance, as well as mitigating actions that are taken to improve efficiency, reliability, and cost effectiveness of freight transportation. A and B of the question, there is a very strong correlation between efficiency and reliability. Specifically, poor reliability of equipment and rolling stock negatively impacts on Transnet's efficiency. Currently, the most significant challenges negatively impacting on reliability and efficiency are as follows. The maintenance backlog at strategic container terminals, the shortage of critical skills at the ports, the poor state of rail network leading to the restricted train speeds, reducing rail capacity and service levels, the poor availability and reliability of rolling stock due to age, as well as security issues on rail and pipelines, including community unrest at times and theft of cables and locomotive batteries. The corrective actions being taken to address these include, and are not only isolated to the points I'm making here, is we had commissioned an independent assessment on the condition of the key port equipment. We've also ensured that there is the expedition of the purchase of new port equipment, as well strengthening the manning levels at the ports so as to optimize functionality there, as well as bringing expertise in terms of international port equipment operators that are training and mentoring some of our staff, particularly at Transnet, to achieve the acceptable benchmarks. The leadership capability, as well as management in the port terminals, has been strengthened through the deployment of experienced leadership. The department has also, in conjunction with Transnet, engaged with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, as well as National Treasury, with the aim of getting temporary exemptions for Transnet to accelerate procurement of critical parts and equipment necessary to address the maintenance backlogs that have been identified. The rehabilitation of infrastructure network backlog is being fast-tracked. The replacement of rail has been accelerated, particularly targeting high-volume, high-density corridors. New locomotives are being commissioned and deployed to improve quality, reliability, as well as customer service. The wagon bill program is being implemented. Equipment is also being deployed to detect and prevent component failures before they occur. We've also begun engaging with the relevant authorities with the aim of resolving security issues faced at Transnet, particularly at our ports. Lastly, Chair, the last part of the question, the department is working with Transnet to identify ways in which to improve cost effectiveness on the country's rails and ports, including increasing port and rail volumes, establishing the single transport economic regulator, realigning tariffs of both ports and rail to remove imbalances, as well as promoting greater competition in port operations. We have also commissioned, as the last point, a study to investigate the implications of corporatizing the National Ports Authority as provided for in the Ports Act, which is aimed at promoting competition in port operations. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Sme Database, you are allowed to ask your first
Deputy
supplementary
Chair.
question.
Deputy Minister, thank you for addressing the issue of maintenance blockage, because most of the time it has a serious problem that need to be addressed. If Transnet is to improve efficiency and reliability, when is this matter of temporary exemption going to be finalized? Because if it's still there, we're going to have a serious challenge. Thank you.
Deputy Minister, you got the question?
Yes, I got the question. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. As I've indicated, precisely because of some of the requirements that our procurement regulations requires, local procurement, for instance, promoting of local suppliers, local industries, where the difficulty arises is where the manufacturers are not based in our country, and the time it takes to have them localizing there has an effect on actually impacting on timeless delivery of some of these projects. For that reason, Treasury has been approached and we are in concert with them on the need for the exemptions. It's a matter that we're expecting not so long from now because at the ministerial level there is confluence. In fact, the Minister of Finance would have said that there is a review, particularly of regulations to do with the PFMA, so as to make for these exemptions where they are necessary, particularly where it affects the state-owned companies. So, in short, we are expecting, because we're working on it regularly, perhaps in a month or less than 2 months, we should have concluded that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Lutuli.
Ngibonge Sekela Sihlalo. Sekela Minister, isibalo sabantu abashonayo emgwaqweni kuyimbangela ama-truck lawa athatha impahla ngoba adameja umgwaqo and iwona enza ukuthi kube khona ingozi eziningi emgwaqweni. So umuntu ulindele ukuthi mhlambe uminister asitshene isikhathi ukuyisona sona sokusheshisa ukuthi impahla ithuthwe kakhulu ngezitimela then ukuthuthwa emgwaqweni ngoba kubulala abantu abaningi. So umbuzo ukuthi uminister ikuphi abakwenzayo njengomnyango. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much. We have accelerated the program that we have since adopted, particularly Transnet, the program from road to rail, moving goods from road to rail. It is both a function of improving efficiencies in respect of our rail networks and the introduction and as well as the implementation of the single transport economic regulator. We're hoping that will also accelerate that, in that it should open the opportunity for other private sector players interested in participating in that space to be able to come in. But the measures that have been instituted are aimed at improving the speed with which goods move from one place to the other. The rail efficiency will help to bring some of the goods from road to rail. The point made, it's a program already identified, it is being worked on.
Thank you, Honorable Matibe.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair, and thanks to the Deputy Minister for the responses given. I heard you, Deputy Minister, talking about the study on the corporatizing the National Ports Authority. I want you to share with us how will that study assist us, and when Deputy Minister think that study will be available. Yeah.
Thank you very much. As I have indicated, we have launched a study, and we're hoping to get from the study recommendations that can suggest as to how the National Ports Authority in its functioning can be corporatized. At the moment, the fact that all these entities at Transnet are part of a single or a consolidated group, we're looking towards a National Ports Authority being a bit of a standalone entity able to function independently. We're looking at what impact that we're looking at finding the impact that it would have and how best to go about doing it. So until the study has been, the results have been received, we can then be able to have the Honorable House here exposed to what are the recommendations and what decisions would be made in that respect. But it is provided for in the Ports Act that there needs to be a different functioning of the National Ports Authority. We are investigating that matter, and as soon as we have the results, the committee, this House shall duly be informed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Matibe, yes, please. Thank you. The next question is, Nana, it's because the next question is your question. Sorry. Yes.
Deputy Chair.
No, I wrote you can come and see your name is
Fine,
written here.
I'm joking.
But the next one is your question. That's why I forgot now that you want to ask a question.
I believe you. Honorable Deputy Minister, In September 2018, President Ramaphosa, Honorable Deputy Minister, in September,
Why do you mind? Are you his lawyer?
Deputy Minister, in September 2018, President Ramaphosa announced an economic stimulus package, which was necessitated by a stagnating economy. 14 months on, our country has suffered a deadly blow as we witness unemployment soaring to about 30%. The stimulus plan has failed and has done so dismally. The benefits, Deputy Minister, of moving goods by rail far outweighs those of road transport freight. Yet your department has failed to make a meaningful progress in making use of our rail network. Deputy Minister, seeing that Plan A has failed, do you have Plan B? Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I suspect it's a matter of perception of the failure, but also perhaps a misreading of the timing between the interventions and the result from those interventions. In respect of rail, as well as generally the functioning of the ports, the work that has to be done there includes improvements on infrastructure, includes the questions of management within those ports. It includes a range of things whose impact in totality cannot be seen in this period of time. Of course, there will be a lag between the time of taking decisions and getting them implemented and the impact that those decisions have. I think it's a matter of time. I would take a different view to that of the honorable member, that the stimulus package hasn't worked. It is because it is being implemented. So the results of the proceeds from the work being done are yet to be seen. I think my small mind economically thinking is that you will not, because you've made an announcement now and tomorrow there is a sudden, everything changes. In the real world, things don't work like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The next question is from the Honorable Nana, 227, question 227. Over to you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The response to the question is that according to our information received both from South African Airways as well as SAA, with respect to SAA, the South African Civil Aviation Authority reported as part of its regular monitoring of the airline industry, reported a number of findings relating to SAA Technical being the component within SAA that is responsible for maintenance and repairs of the aircrafts, not just of SAA, SAX, but even the others, Mango Airlines, I think even the other British Airways, the South African chapter of it, they use that. These findings inter alia related to the use of service providers not approved by the South African Civil Aviation Authority. It also included non-compliance by South African Airways Technical to the approved aircraft maintenance programs, as well as SAT's approved manual of procedures. Because of those significant non-compliance or non-adherence with established programs, aircraft maintenance programs, the South African Civil Aviation Authority required those aircraft affected by these findings not to be operated until these findings have been addressed. So that is significantly the reason why the SAA aircraft were grounded. It was because of what was observed in terms of the non-adherence to the standards of maintenance that are required. So it is not for the same reason, if I were to answer the second leg of the question, it is not for the same reasons that SAA aircraft was grounded than SA Express. SA Express were different reasons altogether. Regarding the last leg of the question, we couldn't find the incompetence on the part of directors in this instance, as this was largely due to operational shortcomings, and that there was no indication of incompetence, therefore, on the part of the directors, because this was a matter that operationally, in terms of ensuring that those who were appointed to do the work did have the necessary accreditation, but also they adhered to the procedures, so to speak. So those were the reasons, and in the view of the department, they were not to do with the director's competence or otherwise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Nana, your first supplementary question.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. Deputy Minister, you are dealing with a rather we are dealing with an SOE, in this case, the South African Airways, with a rather bruised reputation. I will imagine the grounding of our airlines 2 weeks ago did not do SAA any good insofar as reputation is concerned. Now, would you tell this council how much has SAA in particular lost during the grounding, and how much of reputational harm has been caused as a result of this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
If you don't have the exact amounts here, we will not kill you if you request that you must send it in writing.
No, absolutely, I do not have those amounts. I could deal with, would agree that reputationally there's been a lot of harm that was brought onto the airline because of that. But the quantification of the associated costs, both in terms of ticket cancellation, the inconvenience that people must have suffered, I don't have the amounts at the moment that I can share with the House. Neither do I think in the immediate, because it may involve much more investigation to be done to arrive at a proposal, at a conclusion on what the amount could be. So if, with your permission, I could request that we come back to the House on that part.
It's fine, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Your response to the first part of the question was quite alarming. And I think that cognizance must be taken of the fact that the issues have serious implications to the safety of passengers and travellers, as well as to the reputation of South African travel, South African tourism, as well as the entities involved. Now, the reality is that if people are procuring parts that are substandard, whether it be through suppliers or directly, it indicates not to an intervention that some minion down the food chain can change. This is a policy issue. So if it's not a director that blame can be apportioned to, there must be a senior manager who's directly accountable for this. Has that person been fired yet, Deputy Minister?
Thank you very much, Chair. With respect to your earlier comment, on the contrary, though, we may take a bit of confidence in that in the country we have an array of bodies that are capable of giving us the assurance of the safety, because of course there should be checks and balances across the board. The South African Civil Aviation Authority is another entity of state that does oversight, and it actually came with this. And it should really give the people the sense that wherever there could be a slip-up, there's always a room to be able to correct that, which is what has happened in this instance. So it should be also reassuring in the sense. Insofar as the SAT having appointed service providers that do not have certification, as well as not following the procedure manuals to the letter, even those of South African Airways Technical themselves, it's a matter that is with the management to actually get to the bottom of the matter in terms of the action that must be taken for those who have really made this situation to be in existence. So again, it's a matter that we can come back to you as to the specific measures in that regard. But definitely from the ministry point of view, action, we had insisted it be taken upon investigation and the results of that investigation.
Thank you, Honorable Dutwe. Let Honorable Dutwe, you will be there. You will
Thank you.
respond.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Deputy Minister, I've been partially covered by the previous speaker. It's public knowledge that South African Airways hasn't made a profit since 2011. My question was, with regards to you mentioning that the directors were not to be held responsible for this, but it's people lower down the food chain. Obviously, if you're a director of a company and you're part of management, you have to oversee everything that happens in that department. In this entity like the South African Airways or SA Airlink. My question was, or is, since the directors are not to be held accountable according to what you said, has any steps been taken to reprimand some of the other managers or departmental heads to bring them to book with regards to the contraventions that happened? And it's also alarming that you mentioned that slip-ups may occur with referring to the supply chain management and the buying of substandard or alleged substandard parts for the airplanes. We cannot afford this in the airplane industry. If a slip-up happens on 36,000 feet, people will die. And will you then just say, at that time, it was a slip-up, or will someone be held accountable for this?
Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I could repeat word for word what I had said earlier, except to say the part to do with the slip-up. I was saying that we can, though, take comfort in the fact that we do have within the fleet of government or within the fleet of these entities of state, those that give us the assurance that whenever there would be an error committed anywhere, you can be able to, through those regular monitoring, to be able to uncover that so that the appropriate action is taken timelessly there in respect of the actions by the South African Civil Aviation Authority. But I would concede that I cannot consider that the implication for it, if it is really not corrected, is too grave to be just referred to that lightly. I didn't mean it in that sense. I have also said that we have insisted on the investigation that should actually tell us, because part of what we're dealing with there is the aftermath of a process in which procurement, all of it, has been impacted negatively, even the creeping in, as well as an attempt to institutionalize corrupt practices, which is what is being attended to right now. Even at South African Airways Technical, there is considerable work being done to ensure that that entity functions optimally, professionally, and of course, these are some of the things that are being discovered as we are proceeding with the Cleaning Act within these state-owned enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Nongeni.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, the safety of our people is of paramount importance, and we must commend SAA for monitoring, for maintaining one of the safety records, not only in Africa, but in the world. What precaution measures is the department putting in place to ensure that we keep this safety records?
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. The correct title is Deputy Minister. Can I then proceed? As I've indicated, the measures put in place include ensuring that properly qualified people are appointed to these responsibilities and that they are held accountable for their actions, which speaks to the entire chain of leadership within these institutions. These are measures that, of course, together with the external measures that keep interacting with the environment there, that gives us the guarantee that the safety of our people is taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The next question is... You are calling on me. Why are you rising?
I'm rising on a point of order.
Yes, give us the
Chairperson,
order.
we really need to be told how you operate, because
Why?
it seems as if now you are noting hands before the person who asked the question could even rise. His hand was up with an understanding that immediately when the person of the question rises, you'll note hands, but you did that before the chairperson, and it's very wrong.
I want to explain, because at no stage did I do it, what you are saying now. Exactly because it became an issue when the Deputy President was here, whilst he was still speaking, people started to raise their hands. I didn't do it. When I was scanning, Honorable Ryder rise, and then when I was looking, also your member was rising, but already I have acknowledged Honorable Ryder, because I know I think that is the issue. I haven't taken hands before. No, I'm explaining just not because it is a point of order, just because I don't like it when people want to cast aspersions, because that is exactly what you are doing. Can we continue? Yes.
Sir, may I address you on a point of
You
order?
are addressing me?
When I rise here, I'm not casting aspersions.
You never know.
Chairperson, I'm rising on a procedural matter.
Oh, yes.
You should have just explained that.
And I have
that was
explained.
it. Yeah. But don't have other attachments in your
May sit down.
explanation.
Thank you, Honorable Mokause. You have said what you wanted to say. We are going to the next question, on question 218, Honorable Abia Klute, and we will ask the Deputy Minister to respond to it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. The response is as follows. Part A of the question, the ESCOM management has had 2 meetings with the trade union leadership on the 23rd of August 2019, as well as on the 4th of October 2019, wherein the management shared the ESCOM strategy, which included their turnaround plan, the separation milestones, and the case for unbundling or separation. At national government level, there is an ESCOM leadership task team that will also be engaging with labor with matters related to ESCOM. The discussions, part B of the question, the discussions with the trade union leadership are at the initial phases of consultation, and no fixed timelines have been set to date. ESCOM has, however, shared the details of the functional business separation project with the trade union leadership and has emphasized the urgency within which to complete the process. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you. The first supplementary question will be the Honorable Klute.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Government's plan to unbundle, or government's unbundling plan, merely suggests that we are rather committed to replacing one problem with 3 more. These SOEs will remain in the hands of the state, which have shown that it cannot manage the SOEs effectively. Not even you, Deputy Minister, can argue with that. Now, if you were to be honest, at least with yourself, you would know that the recent bailout to Eskom will eventually be needed again and again and again. Now, there have been calls for establishing a market where electricity tariffs are deregulated and the electricity supply is privatized. Any electricity supplier will quickly implement market-related prices, delivering market-related services. It's a win-win situation, Deputy Minister. Any right-minded economist will tell you this. But government clings to Eskom. We all would like to know why, Minister, and the only reasonable answer is how bizarre it may seem that it could be government would rather protect 40,000 Eskom workers who would not necessarily lose their jobs if Eskom is privatized, provided they actually do their job. So, Deputy Minister, the question is, what influence do pressure from unions have in government's clingy approach to Eskom by not privatizing the electricity supplier?
Thank you very much. The answer to that question, because the earlier part was really the statement, which doesn't have to do with the question originally. The government is determined, informed by its choices in terms of policy, and such policies are not necessarily dictated to by any segment within society. It's a function of government to make the decisions, and in this instance, the decision is that of unbundling, which will be preceded by functional unbundling. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ngwenya.
Thank you, Chairperson. My question to the Minister, the follow-up question I mean to say, how will this process result in the proper efficient and effective management of Eskom? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Minister.
The intention is firstly to achieve efficiencies that are at the moment not enjoyed, because these areas of operation are co-joined, with the result that where there are inefficiencies, those inefficiencies are spread throughout. What will be achieved first by making these entities to be separate from each other, then you can be able to focus, and those that are much more profitable, so to speak, that can be realized and not be actually overshadowed by the fact that it's actually across the entire organization. You cannot tell where the problems are the most. I think the intention is to proceed with that. It's functional unbundling, and from there going forward, the possibilities of allowing participation by the private sector, etc., become much more possible with a sense of what works best. We would be able to determine at that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Zandamela.
No, thank you, Chairperson. Deputy Minister, we've been hearing about the unbundling of Eskom, and the details are not forthcoming. Oh, okay, Deputy Chair. And the details are not forthcoming. So my question will be, is the unbundling entails selling off Eskom to private companies, and is that not going to lead to job losses? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. The unbundling as yet does not entail necessarily job losses per se. It is rather optimizing effectiveness of the different entities that are part of the electricity supply. And of course, already there is a private sector role within the electricity industry that is at play already. A large measure of the renewables is a contribution by the private sector to the energy capacity that the country requires. But largely with respect to Eskom, we cannot preclude a possibility of a private sector involvement in the various stages. But for now, that is not primarily there. You would also have noted that there has been released the ESCOM paper that is a roadmap to the end state of ESCOM, which has formed part now of the discourse within ESCOM in terms of how we are working towards that end state. Thank you.
Honorable Ntube.
Thanks, Deputy Chairperson. We wanted to check with the Deputy Minister what is the unavoidable consequence of this process to job security of ESCOM employees, and do we envisage major retrenchment as claimed by those who continue to peddle lies to project the ANC-led government that does not care about job security, when it is illustrious movement that took it to the street to fight job security and the rights of the workers? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would really like to state upfront that the perspective of government as well as policy is that of preserving jobs and creating jobs. But certainly as we make that statement, it should not be that it should be preservation, whatever the circumstances are. It should be that the circumstances lead to effectiveness, profitability, so that these entities can be sustainable, can lead to future jobs being created. It is having these institutions made fit for purpose, and I think that's the overriding imperative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. The next question is the question of Honorable Elsie Bibi, question 238.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Regarding the question 238, the response is as follows. Part A, subsection 1, law enforcement agencies are seized with investigations into ESCOM, Transnet, Delel, SAA, in respect of some of those matters that relate to malfeasance that has been observed. The SIU is currently investigating the affairs of Transnet and ESCOM in line with Proclamation 11 of 2018. Furthermore, forensic reports concerning SOEs have been handed over to the Hawks and the SIU in order to determine those who must be held liable for the amount stolen from the state. The Department of Public Enterprises, as well as the SOEs, have presented evidence at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. All these efforts are meant to assist the Commission in revealing facts regarding allegations of fraud and maladministration in state-owned enterprises. And the last leg to the second part of this, as I have indicated, the law enforcement agencies are seized with these investigations. The department and the SOCs are actively assisting these investigations. And of course, specific individuals are charged. Announcements in this regard will be made with the relevant authorities. The following successful recoveries were registered in ESCOM. A company by the name of McKinsey repaid 902 million against a civil claim ESCOM instituted against that company. ESCOM successfully pursued the recovery of 600 million that was illegally paid to Trillion. A full bench of the Gauteng High Court ordered that the funds be returned to ESCOM to be used for the benefit of the country's citizenry. The SIU is currently in court on behalf of ESCOM to set aside the Tegeta Brackfontein coal supply agreement to the value of 2.7 billion rand. Regarding ESCOM, regiments has agreed to repay 180 million of the 235 million on one contract. Of course, there are still negotiations underway with them. Again, with respect to, there are more funds that have been identified as potentially recoverable, and the SOCs are in the process of pursuing those with the law enforcement agencies. The department will be transparent and will provide details as some of these unfolding investigations are successfully concluded and individuals held liable by the courts. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The first supplementary question, Honorable Bibi.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo wendlu. Ngibonge nakwena sekela mphathiswa ohloniphekileyo womnyango. Cha ungiphendulile impela ngoba ilapho bengizobuza khona ukuthi ngaba lezi mali ziyakhokheka na. Engizofuna ukwazi nje kuphela ukuthi ngaba osopolitiki ababandekenyayo ekuqoleni bona ama-SOEs la. Ebese ama-companies ubusushilo. Ingaba wona ke umthetho umnyango uyawuqinisa yini na? Ngiyabonga mphathiswa.
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Impendulo kumbuzo kamama ohloniphekileyo. Osopolitiki abachaphazelekayo njengokuba uphenyo lusenziwa nabo abazuyekwa bakhethelwe bucala to the extent that they would have been identified the role each of those individuals played. They are not immune themselves from being held answerable for whatever misdeeds they may have committed. Many of these are still underway, the investigations. I'm sure also even for the commission in which some of these were reported to, the investigations are still ongoing until we have reports, then the full exposure of what has happened shall be known. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Hi, Nana. Honorable Nana. You may speak. Sure.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. Deputy Minister, in 2 days' time, it will be 21 months since the fall of the captain of the state capture, Jacob Zuma. Yet the main supporters, yet the main and supporting actors and enablers of state capture still freely roam our streets, often showing our country the middle finger. 1 minute they are just too sick to appear before
Can we
Justice
really
Zondo.
have the question?
Say again?
Can we have the question?
Yeah, I'm getting there. You better be patient with me. 1 minute they are too sick to appear before the commission, or they don't have money to travel to Johannesburg, or they can't recall what happened in the last 10 years. Yet they can recall with relative ease the events that took place in exile 30 years ago. Should the nation, Deputy Minister, should the nation wait for the ever-expanding workload of the Zondo Commission to complete its work before we can see people put behind bars? And what cooperation is your department embarking upon with other state-owned agencies to effect arrests and prosecution of these brazen thieves?
Honorable Chair, my answer is very short.
Yes, please.
I've already indicated what we're doing as the department to support the work undertaken at the Zondo Commission, the work we do with the other state agencies, the SIU, to expedite recovery as well as punishing those who committed acts that are unforgivable. The kind of other questions, perhaps another competent authority, perhaps those should be directed to.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Mola.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and thank you, Deputy Minister, for your response. There is a marked improvement in the recovering of some money that was fraudulently taken from some SOEs. Is the department strengthening measures to ensure that this kind of corruption will not happen in future? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. For these kinds of acts to find expression It took undermining governance structures. It took having managers that were not so competent or didn't do their work as they should. Measures have been taken to strengthen the various areas for which competency is required and proper leadership is required. There has been the reinforcement and ensuring that proper and fit persons are appointed to the boards, and that secondly, proper and fit persons are appointed as managers to perform the critical functions of leadership within these institutions, and of course to create an environment of accountability within these. These are lessons that have been learned as to how state capture has sought to corrode the structures away from their mandates. So yes, measures have been taken and put in place.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Zandamela.
Actually, Deputy Minister has just answered that question I was about to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will continue. The next question is question number 228 from the Honorable Nana. To the Deputy Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. A response to the question is that it is actually the Department of Energy that has the responsibility of procuring generation capacity as per the integrated plan or the integrated resource plan. Within that integrated resource plan would be found the concept of energy mix that resides with the Department of Energy. The second part to the question is that the existing laws are adequate in guarding against the scourge. What is required is public officials determined to act accordingly. I'm confident that the Minister of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy will ensure that there is adherence to the prescripts. Thank you very much.
I don't think we will take follow-up or supplementary questions. The Minister of Energy will be coming here. We will ask him the other questions. Honorable Nana, the Minister said that this question need to be asked to the Minister of Energy or the Department of Energy, because in terms of the integrated, can you sit whilst I'm speaking? Give me the necessary respect. I'm respecting you here. So that's why I'm saying, can we defer this one with the supplementary questions? Because I would be interested for the Minister of Energy to give us all the details. That is why I'm saying, can we defer supplementary questions to there is another opportunity that we can ask these questions. That is what I'm asking. Can we then continue? The next question is 239 from the Honorable Ntube.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. The Ministerial Technical Review Task Team produced a report that was submitted to the Minister of Public Enterprises. The report covers key findings from the assessment of the ESCOM's operations and provided recommendations for correcting the challenges identified. Some of the findings from the task team are, firstly, that during the period when ESCOM staff count was on the increase, generation staff numbers were reduced, compounded by the cessation of investment in development program and increase in overtime. Further, the recruitment embargo imposed has negatively impacted generation headcount on core critical and scarce skills. It also found that there is anecdotal evidence that the cessation of performance-related incentive schemes contributed to low staff morale and reduced the level of responsiveness towards emergency situations. This has increased the attrition rate at station levels. ESCOM generation baseload fleet age averages 37 years and is at the stage where midlife refurbishment is required. In the last 12 months, plant capability losses have risen at an unprecedented rate. This is attributed to an increase in partial load losses and erratic unit strips. The load losses are due to the aging plant and several other factors: coal quality, the ability to timeously procure spares and services, practices that impact operations, as well as the reduction in generation manpower numbers. There was also a negative impact on maintenance due to the introduction of various maintenance strategies over the last 5 years. The adherence to procurement processes from end user specifications to buyers and contracts management has been found to have had gaps, as well as the 9-point plan generation, while covering the critical areas, people, processes, and plants, lacks ownership to power and station levels, as well as it was under-resourced and not dynamic to enable sustainable solutions. The recommendations were on leadership and performance. A number of recommendations were made, like the appointment of key permanent staff, lifting the embargo in generation, disciplining as well as ensuring accountable leadership, as well as launching of the campaign to improve the ESCOM brand and enhance ESCOM's communication. Regarding systems, a number of suggestions were made. There were a number of suggestions and recommendations made in respect of reliability and performance of plant. And of course, the full report has been provided to ESCOM for implementation. The task team has been re-engaged to audit the extent to which the recommendations have been implemented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Mtsube.
No, thanks, Deputy Speaker. I think the Minister have entirely covered me up. At least it shows that the ANC-led government does not toy away from its challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Zandamela. No,
Thank you very
people
much,
have raised their hands. Honorable Nana, if you want to be a presiding officer, apply for that position. Honorable Zandamela.
Point of order, Chairperson. Can I double check what we just said, Chair? Must I apply or must I be voted?
One thing, and don't say I'm Munisekers on Beskofni. Die achtbare Nana praat terwyl hy sy hand opsteek. Ek het hom lankal geïdentifiseer. Nou sê hy aan mekaar, die mense steek die hande op, die mense, is dit nou nie onbeskoffie? Is dit volgens u nou nie onbeskoffie?
Chairperson, when you're in that chair, you should be the one that holds the decorum in the house. You should be the one that holds the calm in the house.
You should be the last one to
no,
tell me that I'm
now
rude,
you're being on Beskoff
and now
again.
after telling me that I'm rude, now you want to...
You can learn from the Honorable Tandi Modise how she handled this house. There's other chairpersons. You are currently taking this house downwards and not being the calm chairperson that we expect you to be.
Honorable Moimang, you can sit down. You are not rude when you speak from your... all the time, telling me that I'm not chairing correctly because you want to be identified. You think it's not rude. It's very rude. Honorable Moimang.
The Honorable Deputy Chair has addressed the point that I wanted to raise, to say the decorum, the respect of the presiding officer is important. When the presiding officer speaks, all of us must take our seat. Thank you.
Honorable Zandamela, don't be like a child, man. I have identified you. I have identified you. I'm saying it for the third time. I'm saying it for the third time. I have identified you. I'm saying it for the fifth time. I have identified you. Why are you nervous when I've identified you?
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Minister, was it not a conflict of interest to appoint a British politician and a member of a political party in another country who clearly holds a different ideological view and also has interest in mining sector and a potential supplier for ESCOM? Thank you.
Yes. Not now. You may sit down. After the minister have responded, it will be you.
Thank you very much. I'm not privy to the information that the honourable member has insofar as citizenship, membership of political parties, etc. Perhaps if one had the access to that, we could be able to respond. I'm not aware of that. Thank you.
You're the special delegate from the Free State.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Deputy Minister, my name is Sandlana Smith. I'm from the Free State. I'm new. Thank you for this opportunity. The question that I would like to just address to the Deputy Minister is that, are you aware, sir, that call centers of ESCOM are currently closed and moved from buildings that belong to ESCOM to buildings that they are newly rented, new leases have been made, that there are new people employed, and I'm just asking, is that really cost containment? For this is also now a strain not just on additional expenses for ESCOM, but it is also additional expenses for the laborers and the employees. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Member, Honourable Deputy Minister. If it is a total new question, you might give us the information when you get
Yes,
to it.
Chair, I'd like the question was about the task team we had appointed. This is an operational question at ESCOM, for which I don't have any information about at the moment. Thank you. If it could be referred to us in the appropriate form, then we can deal with it.
Thank you, we will do so. We will make sure we get the information and share it with the members. Honourable Nana.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Minister, Minister Pravin Gordhan in December 2018 and March 2019 was quoted in the media alleging that the rolling load shedding were an act of sabotage and SAP's crime intelligence units were investigating. Did the investigation identify perpetrators of the sabotage, and when can we expect their arrest and prosecution?
Over to you,
It's
Honourable
a totally
Deputy.
new question, Honourable Deputy Chair. That has got nothing with the question that was asked. I was responding to. We're being asked about the work of the task team, and that is a new question. We could deal with it in an appropriate way.
Thank you. Now the rules at least allow you. So can we continue to question 2 to 9 of the Honourable Lont from the Western Cape? Honourable Lont is here. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Minister. Sorry, members, I was a bit disturbed. That is dealing with the questions from for Minister of Public Enterprises. We will now call on the Minister of Small Business Development. So, yes, we will give you time to set up a little bit. Yes. The question is from the Honourable Lont. So,
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chairperson and members of the House. Information provided by National Treasury on national departments' non-compliance with the payment of supplies by government does not differentiate between large, small, medium, and micro suppliers. It provides for data in terms of the payment of invoices in general without categorization. This affects reporting in terms of data specific to SMMEs and limits the ability to conduct the necessary analysis to the extent to which they are affected by delayed or non-payment. However, according to National Treasury, for the period covering May 2019 to September 2019, on non-compliance with the payment of supplies by government departments, the total rent value of invoices paid after 30 days by national departments amounted to 3.1 billion, 354,225 rands, which is a total of 68,566 invoices. The total rand value of invoices older than 30 days or not paid is 6.4 billion, 550,731, which is a total of 8,700 invoices. In terms of the invoices paid after 30 days at the end of September 2019, the Department of Water and Sanitation reported the highest rand value, which amounted to 1.3 billion, 800,579 rands of the total of 5,375 invoices, followed by the Department of Correctional Services with a total rand value of 681,530,477 for 1,263 invoices. The Department of Defense reported a total rand value of 387 million and 86,304 rands for 41,532 invoices. On the number of invoices older than 30 days or which are not paid, the Department of Water and Sanitation reported the highest rand value, which amounted to 5.4 billion, 228,059 rands for a total of 3,099 invoices, while the Department of Public Works and PMTE reported a total rand value of 693,990,070 rands for a total of 4,866 invoices, followed by the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs with a total rand value of 60,674,509 rands for 352 invoices. On provincial departments, the total rand value of invoices paid after 30 days by provincial departments at the end of September 2019 amounted to 13,508,307,719 rands, which is a total of 116,780 invoices. The total rand value of invoices older than 30 days or not paid is 20.5 billion, 520,003 rands, which is a total of 228,227 invoices. The report indicates that the Eastern Cape Province reported the highest number of invoices paid after 30 days, which is a total rand value of 6.2 billion, 994,369 rands for 34,829 invoices, followed by Gauteng Province with a total rand value of 2.264 billion, 683,644 rands for a total of 25,302 invoices, and lastly KwaZulu-Natal with a total rand value of 1.723 billion, 862,552 rands for a total of 10,257 invoices. The report further indicates that the Gauteng Province reported the highest rand value on invoices older than 30 days or not paid, with a rand value of 8.436 billion, 734,513 for a total of 10,155 invoices. This is followed by the Eastern Cape Province with a total rand value of 7.374 billion, 927,108 rands for a total of 57,754 invoices, and the Free State Province with a total rand value of 1.42 billion rands, 464,240 rands for a total of 6,508 invoices. The National Treasury has indicated that...
Unless you are concluding.
Yes, I am concluded. The National Treasury has indicated that Regulation 8.23 is only applicable for departments and not applicable for public entities. Hence, it is not a requirement for them to submit information on late or non-payment of invoices. However, the public entities are currently applying this provision on best practice. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Lund, your supplementary question.
Thank you for that detailed answer. Honorable Minister, it is concerning that billions and billions of rand is not going into our economy. rands that should put food on the table, should employ more people. It is really a concern, and I really hope that you can get it right, that your colleagues in the other departments also get back to the 10-day payment period as your department is doing. Just on a positive note, it was firstly disappointing that we couldn't see you in the select committee this morning, but our chairperson will write to you and to the other ministers. But I must say you sent a very competent acting DG there. We gave him the compliment. It was really a pleasure working with him this morning. You recently said that your department is working on a database for SMEs that can be monitored after it's linked up with the central supplier base of the National Treasury. The acting DG said this morning in the select committee that one of the proposals that you are looking at is automatic fines for late payments, and that these fines will then go through the accounting officers, and the officials that's responsible for that will be held accountable. By when will this be up and running? And the steps that will be taken against these departments that put the livelihood of SMEs at risk for the late payments?
Before you respond, Minister, if you don't have all the information immediately, you can still submit it to us.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. And apologies again to the Select Committee. We'll deal with it when the official communications come, and we hope it will not recur again. And thank you for the compliment for our competent acting DG. It shows that the ANC government is indeed delivering and has officials that can deliver. And also, in terms of the proposal to pay interest charges, to charge interest penalties on late or non-payment of invoices, we are reliant on National Treasury. I'm sure you are aware that the Minister of Finance, in the document that he has released, part of the proposals include the automatic levying of penalty charges on the invoices that have been outstanding for more than 10 days. I cannot, on this platform and this forum, tell exactly when that will happen, because it depends on whether it gets cabinet approval and complies with the other applicable legislation. But we are the ones sponsoring that proposal, and we are aggressively lobbying for it and making sure that all the legal impediments are dealt with. Thank you.
Honorable Bosho.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honourable Minister, the Department of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, Correctional Services and Defence are the third worst performers when it comes to the payment of small, medium, micro enterprises. Minister, wouldn't you say that Minister Sisulu, Masutu and Nkakulu should not be held accountable as well, because late payments is costing our small businesses a lot, and ultimately the buck stops with the ministers and not with the officials per se. As political leaders, we should hold them to account so that we can ensure that our small businesses are paid on time so that they can create jobs to create a sustainable economy. Thank you.
Just before the minister responds, Nkakulu, who is it? Okay. No, I was really I was even asking members. No, it seemed you are speaking about Minister Nkakula. It's understandable. Okay.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Chairperson. The last time I checked, the Minister for Correctional Services was Minister Lamula, and we got the clarity on Minister Nkakula. I think we need to be consistent as members of the House and also members of the public, that when it suits us, ministers must be held accountable for things that officials must execute on. I think what we are trying to achieve with all the mechanisms we are introducing, we want to hold the necessary officials accountable because they are the executioners. And that's why director generals and head of department are called accounting officers of the department, and they account on how the department executes. And a minister at whatever level they sit, they will not be accountable for an administrative clerk in the department who must receive an invoice and process it and make sure that it's signed off correctly and gets submitted to the relevant payment authority. It's only the officials that do that. And just on a passing by way, I'm not the president of the republic, so I do not appoint ministers and I can't hold ministers accountable. Thank you.
Honorable Ndongeni. Honorable Ndongeni.
Thanks, Chairperson. Minister, has the department looked at what are the challenges that results in the failure of government departments and state-owned entities to process payments to SMEs within 30 days, and what measures is it putting the place to address them?
Question, Honorable Minister.
Yes. Thank you. The department continues to look at the measures, but there has been a number of factors. There are times that government officials want to manage the cash flow of the department when they've exceeded their procurement plan targets. And when they do that, then they decide not to pay for certain services and wait for the next financial year. But if you go, there are also other instances where the responsible department is not able to recover, and therefore they do not have cash flow to pay for those services. What the National Treasury is trying to do now is to make sure that there's adherence to procurement planning and adherence to the execution of the procurement plan, so that the cash flow of government is managed and we do not contribute to stifling or destroying SMMEs. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mutsamai.
Okay. Ke a leboga motlatsa modulasetulo le letona. A le na le tharabololo e tlhameletseng e ka yone le ikaelelang go baakanya seemo se o buang ka sone mo lephapheng le le amegang. Fa e le gore lo na le tharabololo, a mme lo setse le diragatsa, le gore a mme e tokafetse maduo mo lefapheng. Fa re lemoga gore le ntse le retelelwa gotlhelele go duela ka nako, tlhalosa gore a bothata bo ka tswa bo tswa mo babereking kgotsa bothata bo tswa maranyane. Ke a leboga.
Rodibuwa Mufarisa mudzulatshidulo, rina phindulo kana rina thandululo ya pulane dzashu dzori ri ḓo lugisa hani u sa badeliwa ha vho ramabindu maṱuku. Thandulo yashu I fanela kana I ṱanganisa u isa phanḓa ha u ita SMME ombudsman uri hu vhe na payment ya kana na mbadelo ya dzi interest after hu songo badelwa after maḓuvha o teiwaho nga mulayo, na u ita uri vhashumi vha muvhuso vho no khakha vha sa sainiho dzi invoice dzi tshi ḓa kana u complaina uri invoice a ngo ḓa zwone, vha fariwe vha discipliniwe uri ri kaidze u sa ita mushumo ha vhashumeli vha muvhuso. Ndo livhuwa.
I was trying to tell the Honorable Mutsamai, Setswana is on Channel 9, eh? Setswana is on Channel 9. I'm just, for future reference, I'm just telling you, it's on Channel 9. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The next question is the question of the Honorable Mfaela, question 243.
243 or 2?
The upgrade to Durban Beachfront.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. The Durban Beachfront upgrade is the responsibility of the eThekwini Metropolitan Council, and therefore, as the department, we are not responsible for interacting with municipalities. We request that the question be directed to the Minister for Coxta as the Minister responsible for local government. Thank you.
Thank you. It will be difficult to allow follow-up or supplementary questions on something that the minister is clearly saying. Let us defer it to the Minister of Koksta because it is actually applicable to the municipality. So that the members agree. Thank you, Honorable Mfaela. Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Just for clarity, this morning we got feedback that the ministry is now engaging with municipalities more and more and ensuring that there's this partnership built with her department and municipalities to ensure that there's a reduction of red tape, that there's better opportunities for small and medium enterprises. So I really don't understand how this question, based on what we got this morning and now, cannot be answered, because that was the response we got this morning, that there will be a closer working relationship between municipalities and the department.
Since it is something that is in process, it's work in progress. I'm making my ruling. The minister doesn't have the response to that question, and we are not going to take it further. It is a ruling, and we are going to go to the next question. I made my ruling. Can we go to question 230? Order point. Order on.
Chair, the simple point of order is if the question was out of order, why is it on the order paper? Why was it allowed in the first place? You are simply accepting the word of the Deputy Minister that she's got nothing to do with this. Her department has an overarching responsibility right across the country
thank you,
to
Honourable.
promote and look after small business development.
Thank you,
How can
Honourable.
it be that we cannot ask her questions as to how she will encourage the eThekwini municipality to fast forward small business development?
Thank you, Honorable Protestant.
It's on the order paper.
I've made my ruling. Can we continue?
But how
And we
you're not
request-
answering my question, Deputy Chair.
Honourable
How can
Brother
it be that it's on the order paper and now you're just saying it's not valid here and now?
Honorable
How did
Brother
it make it onto the order paper?
Honorable Brother said, thank you very much. I've made my ruling. Can we allow the minister to go to question 230 from the Honorable Lon? And what Honorable Lon said is understandable. It's work in progress. We don't expect the minister to immediately know everything. Can we continue 230?
Deputy Chair.
Honorable Smith, you are rising on?
Yes, a point of order. I want to ask that this matter be referred to the programming committee, that this do not happen again, that the question is put on the question paper that is not supposed to be asked for a specific minister.
That is a request. It's a fair request. That it is a fair request. It can be deferred to the programming committee so that we discuss it and we get to a conclusion. The only thing that I'm requesting members is not to discuss because we have ruled. We are continuing. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. It is envisaged that the Small Enterprise Ombud Service will be established in the 2020-2021 financial year as soon as the amended legislation is promulgated and proclaimed. The department, with the support of the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor, has completed the drafting of the amendment bill for the establishment of the Small Enterprise Ombud Service, and today the draft bill is undergoing the social economic impact assessment process. The main function of the Ombudsman is to resolve disputes between small businesses and other parties, which could be other businesses, that is private, and the state, including SOEs and municipalities, and propose functions for the purpose of achieving the objective is to be set. It will be set for the Ombud will be competent to investigate, amongst others, any alleged unfairness in relation to contractual arrangement or other legal relationships between the complainant and any other party to the complaint, abuse or unjustifiable exercise of power or unfair or other improper conduct or undue delay in performing in terms of a contractual arrangement or other legal relationship between the complainant and any other party to the complaint, including non or late payment of an SMME. Act or omission which results in an unlawful and improper prejudice to small enterprises. And the Ombud must, in any case where a matter has not been settled or recommendation has not been accepted by all parties concerned, make a final determination. And further details will be made available when the draft bill has been considered by Cabinet for both public comments and parliamentary processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Koya. I'm thinking I want to go out.
Chairperson, you're forgiven, don't worry. Thank you, Honourable Minister. I also just on your previous comment, I actually don't care where competent officials come from, as long as they're just competent. So, but one of the things that I am going to ask, if you want to raise the issue about party political contributions to Parliament, is there's not just one single organization that's got the monopoly of good ideas. And in the Fifth Parliament, this exact proposal of the Ombudsman was put forward in the National Assembly by my colleagues in the Democratic Alliance, and it was shot down by the majority in the House, which, as you know, is the ANC. And now this exact same thing is coming back. So can you just please highlight what's the differences between the proposal that was put in the Fifth Parliament and this one that's now there at the State Law Advisor?
Is it a question? Is it a question or is it just an observation?
I can answer.
Okay. No, the minister can respond. I was just asking the Honorable Lord, is it a question or is it just something that... no, it's fine. She said she will respond.
Luckily, I was not a member of the Fifth Parliament, and therefore all rejected bills of the Fifth Parliament I have no obligation to read through, so we have tabled the SMME Ombuds Service Draft Amendment, and that's what we are proceeding with, and we are two-manning me now, we are coalescing. You should be happy that there is collaborative government, and therefore we expect that the other side of the aisle will support the bill and the amendment quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Muimang. It's fine, you are identified in Muimang. It doesn't matter. I've identified both of you, so agree who is going to speak.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable Minister, firstly, let me just welcome and acknowledge the commitment and the speed with which you are moving to address the issues that relate to the vulnerability of SMMEs through establishing this important office. Now, in the light of that, which I have just raised, in your own view, how will this office or how will the Ombudsman be empowered to protect SMMEs, one, from corporate bullying? And we also need to acknowledge the fact that it's not only government departments that pay small businesses late. We've got SMMEs that are rendering services to the mines and other big private companies, and they get paid very late. So we're not only addressing the issue in relation to government departments. So we want to raise in terms of corporate bullying, as well as to ensure the enforcement of prompt payment of the SMMEs. Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Chairperson. And thank you, Honorable Member. That's why we have drafted the draft amendment for the Act to make sure that it's not only applicable to the public sector, but applicable to the private sector. If I may give instances, we've got instances where the franchise and relationships are very onerous to SMMEs, and they keep on, after they've paid the franchise fee and complied, they are losing out, they take them to court, and they lose out a 10-year investment. So that Ombuds service is meant to also deal with that. The second part is that you're correct to say non-payment is not only limited to government, but it's also applicable in the private sector. And that's why the SMME Ombuds service is applicable there, and we've given it and hope the parliamentary process will support us to give the ombudsman powers equal to that of a judge, and to can make a determination if there is no consensus through on a mutual agreement basis, so that we then short circuit and remove the litigation from courts for SMMEs, because part of the dominant destroyers of SMMEs is the litigation with big business and government, which SMMEs always come out late. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Moletsane.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Honorable Minister, what actions will you put in place to ensure that when you have set up this ombudsman, it will be accessible to rural small businesses too? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member, for the question. Through you, Deputy Chairperson. In terms of the draft amendment, we are proposing that the SMME ombudsman will be able to appoint deputies so that they can be available in provinces. But we are also proposing governance mechanism of how the rotation into provinces are available, but also proposing in terms of the detail of the working, how the office should be able to execute to write complaints, even when to be accessible to people in rural areas. As part of the relationship we are building strongly with municipalities, we are wanting municipal LED units to become service points for CEDA and CIFA and certain government services that are given through our department. And with those services being available in municipalities, we are hoping that we can also use the LED units to be point of lodging complaints with the SMME ombudsman so that it can be accessible to our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The next, the next supplement question is Honorable Muima.
No, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm fine now because of the question that was posed by Honorable Anele Koya.
Okay. No, this was the fourth one. Yeah. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. There's 15 billion.
No, Chairperson, Chair, can Honorable Member withdraw the issue that he's raising? He said Honorable Thandi Modise was better than you, Chairpersons. So he must withdraw.
Order, members, order. Honorable Member, have you said like that?
Isn't that a point of debate? And points of debates are allowed.
You know, members, I don't like this attitude of you of undermining us. Yes. We are adult. We are members of parliament. This style of undermining us because we are women, we don't like it. Please.
Chairperson, the last time I checked, the Honourable Thandi Modise is also a woman, and what you just said is supporting my point of debate.
Order, honourable members. I think, we need to continue because I was trying to have, to be disciplined, but I could see that my discipline is undermined. Therefore, I'll continue with my question.
The next question on to 3-4, Deputy Minister.
Just sorry, we haven't done the fourth question.
Minister?
Rules that govern these sessions. One of the rules.
Can you please sit down? I didn't
It's a point
allow
of
you
order.
to stand.
It's a point of
Can you
order.
please sit down? I didn't say to stand.
Are you going to?
I didn't point you. Sit down. Honorable Minister, we are continuing with our questions. Before they confuse you, we are on the 243 question that have asked by Honorable Mfanyana. 234.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm taking his question 234 asked by Honorable Matebula.
Matebula.
Yes. The department has approved a budget of 4.8 million rands towards the refurbishment and upgrading of the Chakuma fruit market in partnership with the Makado local municipality. A total of 2.4 million rands was disbursed to the municipality as the department's contribution towards the upgrade of the Chakuma fruit market. However, the upgrade of the Chakuma market has been put on hold by the parties involved, that is the municipality and the department, due to the fact that Punda Maria Road is being upgraded by the South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL. The Minister for Small Business Development has since engaged and there is agreement with the Minister of Transport to have SANRAL incorporate the Chakuma fruit market in the road designs and upgrade program for the Punda Maria Road. The Directors General of the two departments, the management of SANRAL and that of Makado Municipality, will finalize the relevant details. Thank you.
Honorable Matebula.
Chairperson, Honorable Matebula is not here, but we informed you that Honorable Zandamela will take a question.
Before, I want to check with the Chief Whip that have you reported to the Chief Whip? Chief Whip?
No.
Thank you, House Chair. Bengicela nje ukubuza lapha kuMinister ukuthi ngale infrastructure ikhona na imisebenzi ezocreateka ene izonceda kanjani umphakathi wakuleya ndawo la yakhiwe khona ngiyabonga.
Ndoribuwa. Market wa Chakuma ngawone une uva ita mishumo fa vhafumakadzi na vhaswa vho no rengisa market wa Chakuma. Hu tshi khou fhaṱiwa kana hu tshi khou alusiwa market wa Chakuma zwi khou itela uri hune vha shuma hone hu shumee zwavhuḓi hu khwiniseye kudzulele kwavho na fhethu hune vha ita hone mabindu avho kana vhubindudzi havho. Ndi ngazwo rori arali ra ita market thungo bada i tshi ḓa i ḓo vha bvisa tsini na bada hune vha kona u rengisa vha hone. Zwino ro ri khou humbela uri vha SANRAL vha ite makete hune vha ḓo kona u engedzea ha vhubindudzi havho musi vha tshi khou rengisa mitshelo yavho. Ndo livhuwa.
Thank you. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chairperson. Fred Nell from Gauteng. Deputy Minister, if I understood you correctly, you said about half the money that your department has made available to this project has been paid over to the Makado municipality. Has that money been spent on the project, or is that money being held by the municipality, and how are you going to ensure that that money is not going to be used to pay other debts by this rural municipality and that it will still be available for this project?
Thank you. The municipality, when we put the project on hold, the municipality had already started with the designs for the for the market. So if the money has been spent, it would have been spent towards the designs which we had sent the money for. So that's why we are engaging, and we said the details will be finalized by the Director Generals and their respective management committees or management teams, because we want the work that has already been done by the municipality to be incorporated on the work that must be taken forward by Sandra. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member, I forgot your surname.
One of the problems that we face is when there's infrastructure development being done in municipalities, and now with your closer working relationship that you're going to forge with municipalities, there's money that gets spent, but there's not real budgets for the maintenance of these projects. Is that one of the things that you're going to engage with the municipalities to ensure that when there's investment from your side or the other 15 billion that government spends on the development of SMMEs, that there's actual maintenance plans in place and we don't have to visit a place 2, 3, 4 years down the line and see that it has become dilapidated and it doesn't add any value to the community or contribute to creating jobs?
Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's indeed important that when infrastructure has been developed, there should be money set aside for maintenance. And the partnership in developing the Chakuma market will allow the Makhado municipality to continue to service and maintain the market when it's done. But also the fact that we are roping in Sandral, who will be the developers of the road. As they maintain the road, we want them to also contribute to the infrastructure maintenance. But maybe I must just add that the district development model gives government, more especially the national government, to come in close proximity of municipalities and work closely together, and will not allow infrastructure developed by government to go into a state of dilapidation. But with the Chakuma market, the difference is that it's an active working space. It has been there before I was born and continues to be vibrant and grow. It is my home area, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mama Rehane.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, in line with the government priority of fighting corruption, what are the future policy plans of the department to mitigate risk of fraud and corruption in the future funding model for small business development? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We continue with our question. On question. She didn't put it. Honorable Minister, have you answered Honorable Mama Rehane?
No, I haven't answered. Can I respond?
Can you please answer?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. As part of the measures we are putting, we are doing three things. The first part is that our assessment of SMMEs to afford them funding and also support to their businesses is not done by one person but by a committee, so that you avoid fraud. But when we do infrastructure development to support SMMEs, either business places and wherever, we are also engaging in post-care or maintenance arrangements that we put together with the municipalities, the department, and the various partners that we put in, so that we can limit fraud and corruption in the promotion of SMME or small enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now we're continuing to question 244 that have asked by Honorable Mfanyela. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. A major challenge for small businesses is access to business support services, both financial and non-financial. Since my appointment, the Department for Small Business Development has introduced or is finalizing measures to improve such access for all the small businesses, but they will be particularly assisting in supporting and promoting small businesses in rural and township communities. First is we are introducing a common application template because the application for support had often been difficult because of the multiplicity of applications forms small businesses had to complete, which are not even portable or reusable across various SMME funding agencies. The department, together with CEDA, CIFA, and NEF, and the IDC have completed a common application template form that SMMEs will use to apply for both funding across all the DFIs, commencing with CIFA, CEDA, and NEF, and I will launch this template on Thursday, this 14th of November. The template will save small businesses time and money so that they don't have to contract consultants to assist them with the application forms. But most importantly, if their funding requirements are not covered by one agency, CIFA, the same form can be transferred to the NEF for funding. The second one, we are addressing the issue of prompt payment for SMMEs. I had earlier mentioned mechanisms that we are doing to make sure that we pay SMMEs on time. But the president, during his SONA, he mentioned that we are establishing the Township Intrapreneurship Fund. In a few weeks, I'll propose to Cabinet the details of the Township Intrapreneurship Fund, whose establishment will assist to stimulate the township economies and create dynamic markets in high opportunity sectors for small businesses. The focus of the fund is premised on the findings of the National Planning Commission in their 2017 study of township economies, which concluded that enterprise development is affected by numerous factors, both within and outside the enterprise. And we want to focus on the meta level of the factors, which is addressing the capability of all actors to create favorable conditions for industrial dynamism. The multiplicity of interventions have focused on factors that deals with access to funding, access to enterprise development, but they have not dealt with how to create a dynamic entrepreneurship environment in township and rural areas. And we are experiencing slight delays in announcing the details of the funding due to the current constraints on the fiscus that are confronting the National Treasury in terms of what are the funding priorities that must be there, and how do we juggle the reprioritization thereof. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Mfayela.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, thank you for your answer. It is time for defuse the youth unemployment time bomb with sustainable solutions. In what way is this department going to assist SMMEs to tap into an opportunity that exists with the African Continent Free Trade Area Agreement, which is said to be one of the world's single largest market, accounting for 4 trillion rand, which is dollars. In rand is 57 trillion rand in spending and investment across all 54 African countries.
Minister.
Through you, Chairperson, and thank you for the question. What we are doing is to make sure that South African SMMEs are able to have access to finance, to enterprise development, but also strengthen their ability to develop products and services that can be exported to the African market. On our part, we think that our SMMEs should be ready to export to the African continent, and they'll do that through our support. So we have specific programs directed at SMME development, product quality support, and also certification of products, so that our products are ready for the market and they can meet the right standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Muletsane.
Thank you, Chair of the session. Honorable Minister, metseng ya rona le mahaeng boholo ba dikgwebo di se di nkuwe ke maqulwana a Masomalia, and ba sebetsa mmoho ho thusana. Jwale ha o nahane hore ke nako ya hore dikgwebo tsa bona di ngodiswe ba patale lekgetho le bona. Mme ke batla ho tseba ho tswa ho bona hore na ditlamorao tsa dikgwebo tsa bona ke difeng hore dikgwebo tsa bo rona tse nyenyana tse metseng le mahaeng hore di kgone ho tswella. Ke a leboha.
Thank you. Before we even talk about registering businesses owned by foreign nationals. The Home Affairs must give us an assurance that those foreign nationals are in the countries illegally. Because the current legislation says a foreign national who is in this country and doing business, they must invest in businesses upwards of 3 million rands and not less. And that's what the law provides for. That is one. But secondly, it provides that refugees can do businesses, but they must apply for licensing. There is a challenge currently with our licensing and registration of businesses, and not registration in terms of CPIC, but also registration to make sure that we know who's doing what business where. And to mitigate that, we are proposing an amendment of the legislation and working with the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor to draft an amendment to the legislation to allow us to regulate two things. One, regulate the businesses that are strictly reserved for South African nationals. Two, to also regulate the registration and licensing of businesses as a way of strengthening municipalities with their bylaws and requirement to register and license businesses operating in municipal areas. But the third issue that we are working on is to how do we support our small businesses in the townships and rural areas, because you can regulate and ban everybody from doing everything. But if our own people are not ready to take up that space, there will not be an economy. And it is not true that South Africans are not entrepreneurial. We have been entrepreneurial. We have been raised by entrepreneurial. We have grown up with shops that were owned by South Africans. But we need to strengthen the ability of South Africans to work together. And we are working on mechanisms of how to do that. What is good for us is that the Competitions Act exempt SMMEs from working together and cooperating and collaborating to advance their business goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Dongeni.
Thanks, Chair. Minister, we'll agree that the development of small business is at the core of the government economic development strategy, and the establishment of this department as a standalone department was to leverage small business development across government. In the light of this, what are the key challenges faced by department in fulfilling its mandate, and what are the plans to overcome such challenges?
Minister. Through you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Member, for the question. The major challenge facing the department is insufficient funding of the department and the agencies that are supposed to support small businesses. And to leverage that, we are trying to establish mechanism of partnering with private sector and the international community on expanding the pool to have funding for SMMEs and also support programs for SMMEs. That has been the major issue facing municipalities. But also the second major issue is that there's not been a coordination of policy in terms of supporting SMMEs. Private sector does its own things and government does its own thing, and government does not even do it from one point, they do it from across the point. So we are currently working on, we're drafting an SMME funding policy for South Africa to make sure that how we regulate funding for SMMEs can make an impact across all SMMEs, not that they should be choosing and picking of particular areas, but we can spread the case across. The third issue we are working on is that even when we did enterprise development, our incubation or just enterprise development program, there's not been a national standard or guidelines of saying this is how you do enterprise development, either at an incubation level or at a corporate level. So we are working to develop guidelines and standards that will be adhered to both by private sector at enterprise and supply development, and also at incubators by both government and private-driven incubation services. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable delegation from Gauteng.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, when you start a small business in this country, it's usually by a few people. It's between 2 and 6 people within that business. And in order to do business, especially in rural areas, if you want to do business with government, you have to register as a business. But the moment you register as a business, as a small business, there's a huge burden on you administratively, because CIPC requests annual returns from you, SARS wants annual returns, Stats SA want you to do survey forms, the banks want supporting documents all the time. So it seems as if half your time in the small business is used to fill in government forms most of the time and government returns, and takes away from your time to be productive and to grow as a business. So what is your department doing in cutting down that administrative burden on smaller businesses?
Thank you, through you, Chairperson. Thank you for the question. The matter you're referring to is the challenge of red tape that confronts businesses, but it is a burdensome to SMMEs because large businesses have the ability to navigate around that. Together with the Department of Trade and Trade Industry and Competition, we are working to make sure we alleviate the burden of doing business or the cost of doing business in South Africa. As we speak, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition has launched a BIS portal that allows SMME businesses wanting to register in South Africa can register in a matter of a day, and they have access to both tax, to apply for tax, to apply for UIF, and all these other applications that are there. But on our part, we are launching a national database that gets all the SMMEs to register on that database, and then they can access not only the services that are on the BIS portal, but also additional services that makes it easier for them to do business in the country. But also that database will be used to publish opportunities available both in the private sector and public sector that our SMMEs can do. But it also allows us to able to trace the gaps in terms of supporting them. For instance, you find that the SMMEs that are now manufacturing or producing food, they need to be certified, and also the ones who are producing goods, they need to be certified by the South African Bureau of Standards or some health certification authority. But it takes them months, if not years, to get those certifications. So we want to see what is the impact through that database so that we can then propose intervention mechanism. We are looking at mechanism that will include a special dispensation for SMMEs to get certification or accreditation by the South African Bureau of Standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We continue with our question. We are going to 231, a question that have asked by Honourable Lords. Minister.
Chairperson, may I ask Honourable Lords, because the question that he has asked of red tape, I've answered all the issues when we're dealing with the other issues, but I can repeat what we have said. On the first part is that we are doing a reviewing and consolidating legislation that impacts on SMMEs. We want to see how does that legislation impact SMMEs, and we are allowed to gazette and publish that to say this legislation impacts on SMMEs and in a cumbersome manner, and those that require review will propose to review in consultation with the custodian departments. We are also wanting to enhance the CS process, the social impact assessment that is currently done by the Department for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation to include an impact assessment on SMMEs for all regulations, including legislation and policies that goes to Cabinet as part of enhancing that, and we don't want to remove it from DPME. We want DPME to continue. We have started to negotiate, and we're advocating with municipalities, Salga in particular. We are dealing with the Maintenance Association to standardize certain bylaws so that you can then remove the burden that the bylaw presents, but also have uniformity of law on things that are applicable across all municipalities, so that you have, it will give certainties not only to the SMMEs, but also to investors into the country. And the engagements are progressing very well. I've earlier spoken about the common application template that we have introduced, that I'll be launching this Thursday, which SMMEs will use to apply for funding across CIFA, CEDA, NEF as a start, IDC. They are doing their due diligence, but the Land Bank are also wanting to come on board, and also the department, the packages that are offered by the Department of Tourism, they are also wanting to come on board. I just mentioned the part of the national SMME database, and I've just articulated it earlier on what should happen when that database comes, how it will make it easier for SMMEs to get services across government, because we want that database to be a one-stop platform for SMMEs to access government services across, and it may not start at the right level, but we'll gradually build it to the right level. We're doing it in partnership with ESCOM. I've just, in the previous reply, I've dealt with the mechanisms we are doing with the DTIC on measures of easing burdens of doing business in the country that is also beneficial to SMMEs. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Lord.
Thank you, Minister. I must say it is a fresh breeze having you in this ministry. So I really hope that you are going to be successful in addressing the challenges that we are facing in the country. And one of the big things that you need to address is to ensure that across government departments, we make it easier for businesses to function. The e-filing system that has been rolled out by the Department of Employment and Labour is an absolute nightmare for small businesses. It was difficult to get registered, and then the system went offline, and now the small businesses that are being visited by Department of Employment and Labour officials that are being held accountable for not being on the system. And then when they ask these officials, please come and assist us, these officials say, but listen, they haven't received training even. There's one business in Colesberg that was referred to me that had to pay 10,000 Rand to get somebody to register and get everything on board. Now, this is a lot of money for small businesses, and this is killing our small businesses. What are you doing in engaging with these colleagues to ensure that stuff like that do not happen and do not risk our small businesses? And what can be done by these businesses to recoup their losses that they suffered because of a failed implementation policy by government?
Thank you, Honorable Member, through you, Chairperson. The Ease of Doing Business program that we are undertaking and participating with the DTIC has now roped in the Department of Employment and Labour so that we can address some of the challenges. So all the other departments that are implicated, either because their systems are not functional or they're a critical player in a business doing business in South Africa, including an SMMEs, we are all together in those engagement and to try to make it easy. And we should be able to, through the DTIC-driven process, to give a report of how the relaxations have done. That's why in my earlier reply, I've indicated that the problem in South Africa is that the burden of doing business, it's applicable both for big business and small business. 10,000 is not much for a large business, but it's a lot of money for a small business. Unfortunately, I cannot commit on whether the recoup will be there because they didn't use a government official, but what we can commit on is that we are determined to make sure that the environment is easier for SMMEs to operate, and where they have to register, they will do it will be with the most ease. And we are hoping that with time we'll build capacity ourselves as the department and the supporting agencies to directly support SMMEs on those. The introduction of the common application template, we're checking whether it's not possible in all these other application forms, whether online or on paper, whether we can use common templates that will make it easier. Our own template, we had to test it for the last 2 months, making sure that it can become easy. It's not perfect, but we've committed to make it easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Tutoy.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Minister, thank you for being present today. Minister, considering the challenges that we are facing, or that small businesses are facing, I want to know if the Minister would consider seeing that BBBE forms part of the red tape, excluding some people from applying for assistance. If the Minister would consider looking at the sunset clause with regards to that. Keeping in mind that the small businesses are some of the biggest job creators in South Africa. And I think that would be a good thing to look at a sunset clause being implemented in the near future.
Minister.
Chairperson, I'll need to ask what does he mean by the sunset clause on the BEE policy?
Minister, my question was, would you be looking at implementing a sunset clause with regards to the triple BEE to include all people to take part in putting small businesses there and contributing to the economy in respect of despite the fact that they are from different cultures?
Minister. Thank you. I still do not have an explanation of the sunset clause. And in terms of my understanding of the sunset clause, we require the triple BE policy to make sure that we redress the injustices of the past. But what we can commit on triple BE policy is to make it easier for SMMEs to have those who qualify for exemptions to be granted exemptions without even going to a police station to do an affidavit. That's what we are working towards to achieve. But also with the BE policy, triple BE policy, we are looking at working the review, part of the legislation we want review of the policy and the scorecard to make sure that that scorecard, it assesses impact of large businesses on supporting SMMEs in terms of enterprise supply development than just scoring points for the sake of taking points, because the money that is raised through what is equity equivalent and all the other incentives that are granted for those who are exempted or those who apply for exemption, it is not enough contributor to SMME development, and we want the triple BE policy to be used to effectively transform the economy to be inclusive by making sure that more SMME participate in that space. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Zamdela. Zandamela, I mean to say.
Singuzamdela, No, ngiyabonga House Chairperson. Bengicela ukubuza la kuMinister ukuthi lama SMMEs kuyiqiniso kangakanani ukuthi macela imali ukuthi achaswe ngemali.
Angizwanga?
Nacela imali ukuba achaswe ngemali. Kwesinye isikhathi abakhona ukuthi bayithole noma bafaka ama-applications kuthatha isikhathi eside, and ungayashora le ndlu nawo ukuthi ukubolekiswa kwemali if bayicelile imali kusobala kukho into efihlwayo. Siyabonga.
No, I'm not going to answer in Chief, and then I'm not going to answer in Tsonga or Zulu. I'll answer in English. The issue of access to money or access to funding, we have made it easy by using the common application form. Like I've mentioned, when the question of what are the major challenges we are facing, there is not enough money available to give to all SMMEs. We can do as much as we can go, and we're trying to leverage private sector and other agencies that are playing the country to extend the funding. We are hoping that within this term of office, there will not be a rejection of an application for funding, but there will be a disbursement of funding to all SMMEs who qualify. When we've raised the pot, I'm told we need 60 billion rands to fund SMMEs to make sure that the economy is really ticking and vibrant. We are hoping we can introduce creative mechanisms of raising the 60 billion without necessarily relying on national government coffers to fund that 60 billion. And currently the work is that we don't want to turn down applicants because of the weak business proposal or a weak business plan. We want to turn back the applicants because of a weak business idea. But when the business idea is strong enough, we make a plan of either supporting the business non-financially until such time that the money will become available. But unfortunately, it is not enough to reach everybody at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Mtsamai.
Ke a leboga Chairperson. Ke leboga modulasetulo. Ke botsa gore sentle mona re na le batho ba tshwanang le military veteran ba lekileng ka matla go apply yone support ena ya small business for more than 20 years ntse ba apply ba fail. If we have batho ba ba jwang
Hobane batho bao ga ba kry sepe.
Honorable Minister.
Ke a leboga. Le tla lemoga hore Department ya Small Business ina le mengwaga e metlhano fela e thomilwe. So e ka se be hore batho ba apply-ile for 20 years go department ena ba sa fiwe. So batho ba sa fiwang maybe department in ithom mara nna ke a tseba hore go na le special fund sa go funda businesses tsa di military veterans. That's why gana bjanong re boletse hore re batla o introduce application form e tshwanang gore go be easy or ba kgone ho apply a kere nako engwe maybe mohlomongwe ba bolawa or ba hlola ke o tlatsa application form e right a ba e tlatse tsona. So re rile re application form e easy or everybody a kgone ho e berekisa ba kgone ho apply for funding eo. And le gape hore se ke se boletseng or a re sa batla o rejecta o gana batho ba fa tšhelete he le teng ka taba ya hore form a ba e apply pila a ba e tlatsa pila re batla o rejecta because idea ya business ya bona a si idea e hlwekileng mara if idea business e hlwekile even if a ka apply ka Setswana or Tshivenda or Setsonga re batla go kgona mo thusa or a kgone ho complete form ka tsela e lebaneng or a kgone ho kry ke re di form re sontse re di complete or go na le governance or AG a tlo a tsebo hore re complete le form ya e meet the minimum requirements as set by the law. Ke a leboga.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We are done with the questions. Siyabonga kakhulu. Honorable members, that concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, you are requested to remain standing until the procession left the chamber. The House is adjourned. Thank you.